Set. Mic's on. All right. I have 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started. We'll start out with the pledge to the American flag and follow that by a moment of silent reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mrs. Roberts, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Horn.
Here.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Here.
Mr. Myers is absent this evening.
All right, we've had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting. We can make changes now. If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve as is.
So moved.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister moved to approve.
Second?
Mr. Horn seconded the motion.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes,
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
motion passed. Item 1.6, this is a motion, adjustments to the agenda. Do we have any this evening?
None at this time.
Moving on to information discussion. 2.1, superintendent updates.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good to see a nice crowd here this evening. So jump into some updates and then we'll get on with the rest of the agenda. First and foremost, want to point out our special education rating for 2022. Each year, the Ohio Department of Education puts out ratings for each school district. They look at two components for your special education rating. First is the performance on compliance indicators. This is meeting all timelines, identifying students who may need special education services, doing early childhood transitions, going from preschool to preschool, then transitioning into kindergarten and kind of that early intervention, looking at secondary transitions as students go to the high school and then after graduation and moving on. And those things form your compliance indicators. The second part of your rating normally includes how you perform on results, actual testing. And that looks at grade bands throughout K through 12 and focuses on math and reading primarily. Then also looks at graduation and dropout rates and a few things like that. For 2022, the performance on the results indicators, the actual testing components, are not being factored into the special education ratings due to COVID. We're kind of still in that period where the results are from the time period that we were in COVID protocols. We know that there were learning gaps there that specifically hit early education, students with learning disabilities. So the state is providing that information for school districts to use for continuous improvement and planning for the future, but is not included in the ratings. So this year, the 2022 special education ratings are based solely on the compliance indicators. Did you meet your timelines? Did you identify students appropriately? The transitions, all those things we talked about. So there are seven compliance indicators that they measure your performance on. Out of those seven, you can be rated, it's basically 0 to 4. 4 is you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. So over 7 areas, there are 28 points possible. And then there are breakdowns if you score from if you average 3.75 to 4.0, then you receive a rating called meets requirements. And that just tells the district you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, keep doing it, but you do not require assistance from the state. So extremely happy to report to the board this evening tip of the cap to our staff. Going back to Tiffany Wade's leadership, John Turnbull and what he's done so far, but the entire staff and district. Our score for the 2022 special education rating was 28. We were perfect score on it. So averaged 4.0, and just incredible work under really trying circumstances over the last 3 to 4 years. So just excited about that. We'll continue to break down the performance on the results indicators, looking at test scores and where we need to provide extra interventions and do additional work. But as Mr. DeStadio shared at a previous board meeting with the state report card, we're already seeing a lot of gap closing and growth across the board at all grade levels. So we're extremely excited about where we're at there, and we'll continue to report back those type of things to the board as we progress through. So very happy to report that this evening. Throughout our agenda tonight, first and foremost, want to welcome members of our FFA to give us updates as well as report back on the Big E competition for our equine judging team. So we're excited to hear about that here in a few minutes. Our principals will also be giving updates tonight, and always appreciative and thankful of them spending their time and being here in the evening to update us on everything going on across the district and in the buildings. When we get into the new business section, as we get to 6.1, I'll talk about that a little bit more later. We're happy to have Ms. Schoonover and her family here with us this evening. We want to spend a little bit more time on her here a little bit later on the agenda, but do want to welcome you guys and appreciate you being here with us this evening. We have updated substitute list for teachers and our classified spots. As the board is well aware, not only here but across Ohio, schools are struggling mightily. Larger districts, you almost see daily whole routes being canceled because they don't have enough bus drivers, or whole buildings being put into remote learning because they don't have enough drivers to get the kids in. So we're extremely appreciative of our staff and our substitutes and the work that they do day in and day out. Just want to point that out, that we'll be approving those substitute lists this evening. And also throughout the evening, not only with our FFA program here giving an update and our equine judging team, just want to acknowledge in general student performances since we last met. We have 2 tournament games going on tonight, volleyball and men's soccer. Our girls soccer team will be playing later this week. We have football with a big game Friday night, that playoff implications on the line with that game, chance to get to the playoffs. So a lot going on athletically, but then you look away from athletics and you see so many other things going on. Last week, I had a chance to spend a lot of time at the fair, and the number of projects from Fairfield Union students from elementary through high school, truly astounding. And seeing how our kids placed and finished, and just incredible work. And last board meeting we talked a lot about the report card and the academic side of things, but we really do pride ourselves on it just not being all about academics, that there's a component of, there's a lot more outside of that doesn't show up on report cards but are extremely important in the well-rounded education of a whole student. And so we've seen our performances at the county fair last week, and just absolutely incredible stuff happening across the board. Like I said, elementary up through high school. So to all of our students that are doing things outside of the classroom, just a tip of the cap. Our band on band day, little biased, little prejudice, I understand, but after I sat and watched all the bands, and there was nobody better than us, that's for sure. So maybe 1 or 2 that were equal, but just incredible performance by the band as well. So it's exciting to see all those things happening. And obviously the report card was good, and we're proud of the academic piece that we're here to do, but we know all too well the importance of those other parts of the puzzle. So Last thing I'll point out tonight, I gave a packet in front of each board member, a hard copy of pending legislation as of 10/17. We've been talking about after the November election, it is going to be an extremely active lame duck session in Columbus. Right now, I gave board members 20 pages of pending legislation that is in some way related to education. So there's a lot out there that we are monitoring, keeping an eye on, send a message out to our staff. About a week and a half ago in my monthly memo that over the course of the next month or two, there's going to be some time spent in Columbus meeting with legislators and advocating for public education in Fairfield Union. It's an important time, and the biggest kind of piece out there is the budget. We are in a budget year. The 2-year biennial budget is up this summer, and a huge piece of that is school funding. The Fair School Funding Plan that was implemented 2 years ago, we know that the first year of that, it was only funded, I think, at 16%. This year, it's funded at 33.3% of the total amount that the Fair School Funding Plan would require to fully fund every school the way that the state thinks the schools should be funded to educate kids. So we're only receiving a third of what they tell us it should cost. But they didn't guarantee full implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan. So this summer, they could leave funding at 33%, they could reduce it, they could increase it, or they could totally scrap the plan and come up with a new funding formula. And we start all over from ground zero. So from now until, we won't know what's going to happen with the budget till after the election in November. If Governor DeWine wins re-election, you feel a little bit better about the Fair School Funding Plan staying in place, and then just determining how much they're going to fund that plan. If he were to lose and we would go from a Republican governor to a Democratic governor, you don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen with that plan. Maybe it stays and they, increase funding, or maybe there's a new plan that gets developed. A lot of uncertainty, so they won't even really start discussing budget and Fair School Funding Plan, those type of things, till after the election, so you know who is really controlling that state budget. So from November till the end of December, it's going to be an interesting time. So just really kind of wanted the board to have an idea of what all is out there that we are tracking and talking to legislators about day in and day out. If you have questions as you go through that, I don't want to dive too far into it tonight, because between now and Election Day, nothing is really going to happen. It'll be after Election Day that activity will really start popping in regards to these bills. So, but we will monitor and continue to report back to the board on that. Any questions? All right, I'll talk a little bit more once we get to Ms. Schoonover.
Next up is treasurer updates.
Okay, just a few things for this evening. Just some housekeeping as a reminder to all employees that we do have a flu shot clinic in each of our buildings starting tomorrow. So there's about an hour and a half time slot for all employees, and then spouses are also welcome if they'd like to be there. And then one other thing is just a reminder, in November, still figuring out which November meeting, but I will be presenting our next 5-year forecast. So kind of spinning off of what Mr. Belleville just said, looking at all the financials for the next 5 years. So kind of looking at the agendas between the two board meetings and figuring out which one will be best, but I will let you know which board meeting we'll be presenting that in. We are in the midst of audit season in our treasurer's office right now, so completed one, actually completed two, kind of in the midst of our gap audit, and then gearing up for our next financial audit. So it's a lot of report gathering and reporting and working with auditors kind of, here and there as questions come up. So it's kind of just the day in and day out of the treasurer's office right now. A few things for later on in the agenda. I will be presenting our September financial and insurance reports, both obviously for the month of September. And then I do have 2 repayment plans for 2 employees who were actually overpaid last fiscal year, so last school year. We have worked with both auditors and then also our legal team to ensure that these are kind of on track and that these are what we need to do. And then obviously working with our teachers union and then the employees themselves. So it's been kind of a group plan to get this executed. So at this point tonight, we will be looking to approve those and then start those repayment plans, actually starting our next pay on October 28th. So, but overall, that's pretty much everything I have for the agenda this evening, unless there's any questions. And obviously, as we get to those, I'm more than happy to answer questions, but.
Any questions?
Okay, that's all I have for tonight.
All right, we will move into recognition of visitors. 3.1 public comment. We have 3 students that have signed in would like to speak. So are you going to speak together or individually? Who wants to go first?
I know I originally said I won't stand, but I just wanted to introduce the equine team. We originally have 4 members. One is a graduate, Jane Triplett. She graduated in 2022. She's at Hocking College pursuing their equine program, and it's a college that's still on 9 weeks, and they just switched their 9-week schedule, and she has class right now until 9 o'clock. So she was going to try and get out, but it's the first day of this class, so I told her, go to school. It's what you're doing. You're pursuing your dream. And then Mackenzie Chilcote was another member. She's a junior at the high school. She was very sick today, and so she went home, and I told her not to come. So we just have the 2 representatives of our 4-member team. And I do want to note that Jane Triplett, the graduate, was crowned equine ambassador at the fair. So that's why we weren't at the last meeting, because her and Emma Daubenmeyer, who is here tonight, were at the interview process. So Jane Triplett, the graduate, ended up being the representative for the fair and Fairfield Union. So that was awesome. Today I'm going to have Emma Daubenmeyer, a sophomore, and Ella Kimball, a junior, just come up and talk about their experiences. They created this infographic kind of flyer for you, just so that you can look over it at your own time, maybe fill in those blanks or questions that they may not address. They're really going to bring out their personal experience. It's obviously different than mine. So I want them to talk about what this experience meant to them.
Okay, so as a team, we originally had 7 on our team. So we, Alexis McCutcheon, Austin Levin, Mac Chilco, Ella Kimball, myself, and Jaden Triplett. We all went to a preliminary contest at the Ohio State Fairgrounds. Competed there just as like the first rundown kind of thing. You know, kind of just throw yourself out there and kind of see how you do. So we placed in the top 10, which then qualified us for the finals to move on to states, where we placed as a 4th overall team, as we competed again at the state fairgrounds against the top 10. Mackenzie Chilcote placed 3rd overall in that competition, which is pretty well there was quite a bit of people there. And she also received recognition through the department for that.
To get to where we got to, obviously, we had to do a lot of preparation, a lot of meetings to study everything and learn everything that we needed to, so that way we could get to as far as we got. And we also did a lot of independent study amongst just ourselves, and we would talk about it with each other. And we'd go home and we would work on our oral reasons together, and then we did all that to help to get us prepared.
With the help of Mrs. Ballant, we were able to have meetings during school for our advisory period, which we would pull out a textbook or use our resources that were online to make flashcards or Google slides, take notes, work on judging off of a YouTube video, or kind of doing things that could prepare us as a whole rather than being unprepared, because you wouldn't want to walk into a competition with no knowledge. We started off places. We went to the actual Big E in Springfield, Massachusetts. Went and saw all the exhibits, watched a little bit of their showing that they had there. We stayed in a few hotels, really just kind of enjoyed the fellowship with each other because as we practiced and got to know each other, we kind of grew close, and it was just, kind of a good thing to be able to get away from life and go do something together. We went to Storrs, Connecticut for the competition. We judged 7 classes of halter and performances, and then we completed attack identification, and we did oral reasons for 2 of those classes, which oral reasons would be, you go write up a paper, practice, and then you would have to stand in front of the judge and give your speech to as whatever class they provided you with.
The oral reasons helps us, it's a good opportunity to prepare for public speaking and speaking in a new environment in front of people that you've never met before in your life. It's a little intimidating, but that's what life's about, I guess. And so that was one of the big impacts, is it got us an opportunity to speak in front of people that we've never met before. And we didn't even know if our answers were right or wrong, so it was just, you just had to make it sound like you knew what you were talking about and make it sound good. And we also, that was very much testing us, because I can at least say for myself, I was extremely nervous, but I don't know about anybody else, but probably. And then when we got to go to the Big E, it expanded our knowledge of all the agriculture in the different states, because they had each of the state buildings of the 5 or 6 states were there. And it was really cool to go into them and see what each state is known for agriculture, which is a very neat experience. We had this experience, because we did so well, could give us a chance for scholarships and a better future with college, because some schools look for that, if you do really good in judging and stuff, which is a great opportunity for every single one of us. And then we got to meet new FFNs from different states, which was very cool to see what all of them are good at and all of them each do to prepare for stuff and talk to them about everything. And it was a very neat experience to meet everyone from the different states. And we also got to explore the University of Connecticut campus in Agriculture, which was also neat, because we again got to expand the knowledge of agriculture there, and it's something that if you're willing to pursue a career in agriculture, I think it's something that's very great for all of us.
When you think of Ohio, you don't think of horses, you think of, Columbus, you think of the city. And honestly, for Ohio to even be considered to go there is kind of something that you don't ever hear, because, obviously you have all of the New England states up there that they're known for that kind of stuff, to just go and participate, but I believe that was the first time that we had ever qualified to go to the New England states, which is a big deal, because our team is so young, and we don't have, which obviously we have Jaden, but it's 2 juniors and a sophomore that made the majority of it happen, so.
Which last year we didn't even get the full experience, because they were still COVID, remember? So it was just the test, and then if you got first, you obviously went to national convention. But that was just how it was. So this year, even though it was my second year, it was basically my first year doing all of it, and it was Emma's first year, and I didn't do it the year before. So for all of us, I think that's pretty cool that I can see there's a new experience for us.
And I feel like we're very thankful for the opportunity to go, because we do have so many people now that see what we had done, and they're eager to get into our program to do that. We have people that are lining up to want to be on our team. And we're completely open to that, because we want as many with the knowledge to be in new places, bigger places even than we were.
That's everything. I'm not pretty good tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls.
Appreciate it.
I want to iterate, the team placed 5th overall, and then Emma placed 3rd individual out of 40 members. So there were 9 total competing teams, and if you looked at the scores between second and fifth, it was 1 to 3 point difference. So we were 3 points away from second, and they recounted and recounted and recounted. So definitely 13 points from first. So it was a very close competition. But if you have any questions for the girls, you can send them to me and or their student emails. But I'm going to move along real quick to my next 2 students. We have Kate Markwood, our FFA president. She's currently a senior. And then we have Daniel Householder. He is the assistant chaplain, and he is a sophomore. They did speak at the last board meeting. They're super eager to come to every board meeting. They really enjoy talking to you guys and really boasting about the FFA program. So they just have a short list that they're just going to identify some different things that have happened between the last board meeting and what's happening for the remainder of the month.
I'll start off with National Convention. Last time I said we were taking 35. We are now taking 42 because we had a good bit of students sign up and we were able to fit them, so we fit them in. And I mentioned last time, Nikki Hanlish is Proficiency Award for turf and grass management.
10 American degrees that we're going to go to the ceremony. We have 10 categories. So that's, I think, one of the biggest we've had, which is very cool. Report on Fair Week. I was able to compete in the queen contest and got first attendance. So that was very cool.
Congratulations.
To be able to represent our county. We had a lot of animal successes, like Mr. Bobo was saying. We have a lot of pig hens. It was very cool to see. If you went to the Ed Sands building, all of the FFA was all together. They had all of their stuff in there. People, turkeys, rabbits, all kinds of stuff. So that was really cool to see their success. And then our forestry team did compete, like we said the last time, and they ended up placing second. So that was very big and very cool.
I mentioned that last time. We're just reiterating that because there was a lot of confusion on how the test went and how the competition went, and it got all messed up. We were in second, then we went to third, then it was fourth, then they cut it out altogether, and then they reconfirmed it, and we did get second.
Good.
So
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
All right.
you.
Thank you for being here.
All right, we appreciate those comments. We're going to move into reports and presentations. I think we've covered that equine. Okay. So we will move on to the administrator's reports.
Start with Mr. McPhail.
Thank you, Mr. Belleville. I would just start by saying, it's so rewarding, as a person in the district, as a high school principal, as a parent, a person in the community, to see our students present tonight. Just came from the volleyball game. You've got so many elite students in the high school and out on the soccer field. The band was practicing as I got in the car to come over here. There's just so many things going on that are positive. All of that we've already talked about. All of the students that participated and excelled in the fair last week. Our art department had a nice exhibit at the fair, and so proud to have an opportunity to represent so many great people. To piggyback off of Mr. Belleville's, he mentioned some of the things about our fall tournaments. I would start my presentation by just huge kudos, and we've mentioned them a lot, and they deserve to be mentioned a lot. Our boys and girls cross country team, once again, both teams, both boys and girls, won the Mid-State League Championship last weekend. So they continue to excel. They're on an upward trajectory, and they're competing in the districts this week. So I want to give you a quick rundown, kind of for your notes maybe, about what's going on this week tournament-wise. So volleyball, again, is playing tonight. They were leading when I headed this way. The winner of that game up there tonight will play at Marietta on Wednesday at 6 p.m. And that is, they'll be playing Marietta High School in that game. Then boys soccer, playing out on the varsity field. I'm not sure what the score of that game was, but they're playing Warren Local this evening. The winner of that game will play the winner of the Marietta Logan Elm soccer game, and that game will be either at Marietta or possibly here, depends on who wins that Marietta Logan Elm game. That'll be Wednesday at 6 as well. Girls soccer plays Thursday here at home. That's a sectional final game. They'll play the winner of the Gallia Academy New Lex game. Again, that kick is at 6 o'clock. And then they play in the district semifinals. The winner of the game Thursday night will play in the district semifinals Monday at Zane Trace High School. Our cross-country team, as I mentioned, they're traveling to the district meet at Rio Grande University this coming Saturday. The girls run at 4 p.m. and the boys run at 5 p.m. in the districts on Saturday. And then, of course, our football team, they have their last game of the season this Friday night at home. That is band senior night, cheerleading senior night, and of course, senior night for the football team. So, big rivalry game at home, last game of the year. Hope to get back to 500 with the win there, so we're looking forward to that. Just some things I had listed here that are upcoming in our schedule over the next couple of weeks. We're giving a fall ACT test tomorrow. We give the fall ACT every year to any sophomore, junior, or senior who wants to take it. For the sophomores and juniors, it's rare that a lot of sophomores take this test. Our number breakdown, we have 1 sophomore, 5 juniors, and 10 seniors. The sophomores typically aren't quite far enough into their curriculum to really be completely prepared to take the test. We have some that want to do it so they can get a trial run and get a feel for what the test has. The juniors, every junior in the state of Ohio, as the board knows, will take the test for free this spring, but some of our juniors like to get a head start on that and kind of get a look at it. Excuse me. And so we have 5 juniors that will be testing, and then we have 10 seniors that are taking it for a second or third time, just trying to increase their scores. We'll have Herff Jones, who's our yearbook and graduation rep. We have a great relationship with Herff Jones. They come in every fall. We're a little bit later this year, but they come in every fall and really do 3 separate assemblies. One of those assemblies is a commitment to graduate assembly. We talk to the freshmen about how fast the next 4 years is going to go and what that experience entails. And then at the end of that assembly, we have them sign the Commit to Graduate poster. You see those in our cafeteria at athletic events, and then you'll see that we always put those on display for that senior class at graduation. So kind of the 4-year span for them. We also do an assembly with our sophomores and juniors to if they're interested in class rings. And then, of course, we have a senior assembly for our seniors to get prepared to purchase their graduation attire. We purchase, the district purchases the attire that they wear at graduation, but they've got opportunities to buy extra stuff, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and that kind of thing if they choose to do so. And so that's what that assembly is about. So we appreciate the relationship with Herff Jones. They do a tremendous job providing services to our school district, and we appreciate them coming up and meeting with our students. We have textbook adoption for the high school this year. 2 content areas, science and social studies. So on Thursday, working with Mrs. Schilling, Mr. DeStadio, Mr. Schaefer and I, and our 2 departments, we'll sit down on Thursday and have a 1-hour presentation from McGraw-Hill curricular materials textbooks in both of those areas. And that's kind of a vetting process, and we'll get feedback, have discussions with the departments leading up to a purchase later on this spring. On October 28th, the National Honor Society will have, I think this is the 2nd annual costumes for caring. Teachers will have an opportunity to dress up in Halloween gear, and students then can bring a little extra change or a couple of extra dollars. The teachers will have candy, and the students can, I guess depending on their favorite teacher or the best costume or the ugliest costume, whatever, they can make donations and take a little bit of candy, and then all that money is then donated to a charity of the National Honor Society's choice. We'll have our first quarter reward party, PBIS Reward Day. That's on Wednesday, November 2nd. We'll take an afternoon, and you'll remember that I've mentioned the criteria. You can't fail any classes. You can't have more than 1 after-school detention for the 9 weeks, and you can't have any in-school or out-of-school suspensions. So it is a reward. It gives the students that maybe need a little extra help academically a chance to take a little time to do that, maybe get caught up on some work or get a head start on some work for the second grading period. The students that have stayed on top of things and really done well, we give them an afternoon to kind of enjoy themselves. Picture, picnic, family picnic, tailgating, can jam, all the outdoor games, those kinds of things, kickball. So that we really enjoy those days. We do one at the end of each grading period. And then one of my favorite events every year is the Marching Falcons in Concert. That's coming up on Friday, November the 4th at 7 p.m. Our band has had an outstanding year, so we're really looking forward to the Marching Falcons in Concert opportunity this year. And then just as far as academic work in the building, our focus continues to be, we're settled in, we're kind of into a rhythm. The high school's working on curriculum mapping. The staff is completing their first primary course curriculum maps by the end of this first grading period. We're working on really honing in on the OTES 2.0 process, the teacher evaluation process, the data aspect of that, and the alignment of that data with our instruction. That is just fundamental, but we're into that work, and I would say it's going really well. And then just overall in the building, there continues to be a very positive, can-do, upbeat attitude out of our staff and our students. Everybody seems to be focused, and we have had a good start to the year.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, how are you guys doing this evening? I would just want to start out with a few thank yous. First of all, thank you to Board of Education, Mr. Belleville, Mrs. Roberts, and Falcon's Nest. Earlier this month, we had ice cream from Falcon's Nest here at the middle school, as you know the other school buildings did as well. But it was such a great celebration for our kids. They were so excited to go outside. A couple of the kids were like, "How much is this going to cost?" We were like, "It's free." So. It was a great time for the staff and the students to celebrate, their success from the spring testing and just the strides they had made academically. So thank you very much. Also, some thank yous going out to our fall coaches and Mr. Clark. We had a good fall season. All of our numbers were up across the board. Like I said earlier, we were able to have a 7th grade and an 8th grade football team, and that has not happened the last couple of years. And so for us to be able to have both of those teams, that's just a testament to the numbers that we've had. We had more cheerleaders this year than we've had. Our volleyball team for 7th and 8th grade were, definitely, it was a growing season for them, but they overcame a lot of challenges, along the fall, and we had great participation along the way. Our cross country, we have one final meet this coming weekend where we will have some of our student athletes who are going to be participating in that. But for the most part, our fall sports have ended at the middle school, and we're gearing up for our winter sports. We have open gyms and tryouts starting here just within the next few days. We had, close to 100 students participating in fair projects last week, and also marching in the marching band. So thank you for providing that opportunity for our students to participate in the Fairfield County Fair. Just over the next couple of weeks, this Thursday morning, bright and early, we have a large group of our 7th and 8th grade students who will be traveling to Williamsburg. We have 42 students in the 7th grade and 52 students in our 8th grade, led by Mr. Miller, and he's the trip coordinator. We have other staff members who will be attending that trip as well. So that does, it's the 20th with the 22nd. They'll, like I said, leave early in the morning on Thursday, travel Thursday, and they have a full itinerary between Thursday and Friday, and then returning late on Saturday evening. So, the students are really geared up for that, looking forward to that real world experience of visiting all of these historical sites and having a great time. For a lot of them, it's their first time away from home, maybe spending the night in hotels and things like that. So we are going to be having some students report to the board on the November 7th board meeting, just to kind of give you guys an evaluation of that. This coming Friday, we have our grade 5 and grade 6 after-school activities. We'll have activities in the gym and outside in the playground area, and some activities also in the library. So that's from 3 to 4:30 after school this Friday. Staff and some parent volunteers are going to make that possible. And then next week, our grade 7 and our grade 8 fall dance will take place on October 28th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. right after school, with the theme of that being fall. And that is hosted by our student council as well. And so those are just a couple of things that we've got going on for our grade levels here in the next couple of weeks as we kind of close down fall and our first grade quarter. So just to kind of reiterate what Mr. McNeil said, we are having a great start at the middle school. Our staff is working extremely hard to make sure that that is happening, and I appreciate all their efforts. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. Bremen continues to be pretty busy. So at the beginning of the month, we did our walk to school day. So we had over 100 kids join teachers and staff members and walk to school. And that's always just fun. Great support from law enforcement and things like that. And just not only is it important to review just kind of how to walk and be safe, but just those casual conversations as you learn more about the kids and build those relationships. Several staff members said to me, I learned so many new things just in that walk, a couple blocks to the school. So it was fun to do that. And for me, hey, I'm learning streets. I knew where to go. I'm getting there. We recently had our book fair, very successful. We had an evening where we hosted where families could come in, and we had several come in and had good conversations about just reading and tips and things like that. And those were just very informal, kind of spur of the moment, but definitely reminded me why it was important to reach out and provide that evening time for them. It was good to hear kids kind of give those book talks to their parents and trying to coax them into getting that extra book for them to read and stuff at home. So that was also something we enjoyed. Continue with our focus on good character traits and things. I hosted our first superhero lunch so it looks like a birthday party. It was Spider-Man themed and so we have Falcon tickets, we draw randomly, they get to invite a friend, and we practice what that looks like and how to do that. And so each lunch period then, they kind of get spoiled by me at the table with their lunch and their friends. And we just reiterate that these good character traits are what got them to sit there, and we talk to the other kids about what that looks like and what they can do to possibly be sitting at that table next month. So we'll do that every month throughout the school year. Just kind of taking something that we've traditionally done for a long time and kind of tweaking it a little bit and adding something a little bit new to it to kind of keep it fresh and the kids motivated with that. Today we had the high school football team come in, talk about buzz at lunchtime. Those kids were so excited and pumped to talk about who was in the room, what reading group they were in, what the book was about. And so that was fun to partner with the high school and be able to provide that for the kids. It was also helpful, I think, as we all get back from break, to keep the kids' excitement and keep them kind of geared in there. On Thursday, our first grade level are hosting Career Day. So they reached out to the community, and you have different professions being represented, and they'll talk about the schooling, their everyday, day-to-day jobs, skills, and things that they do. And then the following day, on Friday, then our first graders will dress up as the career that they like the most. And so it'll be fun to kind of see growth and dress up. Mr. Burns is going to be the principal coming in and talking to them, so the staff is excited for him to join us. And then, of course, we have the Halloween party coming up on the 28th. And so we're talking about, we do like traditional kind of come in and join us and have a good time with us. And prior to that, just within the students and staff, we kind of go room to room and visit and see all the different costumes and stuff before the party gets started. So we continue to be busy academically. I'm so impressed yet not surprised at the teamwork that I am seeing as we dig into our data and we identify those areas that we need to work on. Just as team members step up and say, I can do that, or hey, have you heard about this? We've done this before. That probably would work with this group of kids. And so just a lot of collaboration that's making me proud.
Well, good evening. It's always fun to come and share just some of the things that are happening in the elementaries. I want to start off with some things that we've already done. So we had 2 Breakfast Club dates. We've started splitting because it's such a popular event, and in lieu of parking and everything else and just trying to get it all in, we do 2 different days. And we actually had one of the days, a record-setting day of 270 that had RSVP'd, and then we had another 180 the next day. So lots and lots of people in the building. It was just a really nice activity. It was great to be able to talk to the parents a little bit, and of course the students and parents got to see their kids' friends and all that good stuff. So it was a really fun activity. Ice cream day was a huge hit. It was so greatly appreciated. The kids were excited, the staff was excited. We talked about how we earned it. The weather was 73 degrees and absolutely perfect that day. It could not have been any more magnificent. It was absolutely wonderful. At the fair this year, we had student artwork. Mrs. Landis took some student artwork to display there at the fair from Pleasantville, and I believe also from Bremen. And we also had lots of students, of course, that participated in 4-H, various activities and things. We've also been thankful to be able to do a few field trips. We've had a couple of grade levels that have come to the Land Lab and done some things at the Land Lab. We have a kindergarten group going to Pigeon Roost. We've got 2nd grade teams going to Waukeena. And so I just want to thank you for valuing these real-life curriculum-based experiences that the teachers and the students have the opportunity to do. It is really neat because you just see some real different personalities. When you take kids, you know this student might like science, but you get them there and they know every answer to everything they get asked, and it's just neat to see that and really encourage that passion in the kids at a young age. The football team came today and read with our students, and I was able to pop into a few of the classrooms as they read, and after they read the story, and they gave the students chances to ask them questions. And so it was really neat to see, a team of, one of the groups that I was in with, there were 7 or 8 of the football players in together, and we had students asking, well, what kind of job do you want to do when you get older, and so hearing them, and a couple of them still weren't sure. They're like, well, I'm a senior, but I don't know yet. And one of them said, well, why don't you be and they'll suggest a doctor or, whatever. So they had lots of good ideas for the ones who didn't have their own ideas, but things like, what's your favorite animal? They wanted to know what their favorite colors were and other fun questions like that. So it was neat to see that. And I will say the football team did an absolutely amazing job interacting with the students. They were excited. They were enthusiastic even about some of these questions that they probably haven't thought about for years, but really seemed to interact well and enjoy their time. October 28th, we will be doing kind of a little celebration, of course, for finishing of the first quarter, but also for Halloween. We typically do a Halloween parade, and so the way it works is it's kind of an ongoing infinity type parade. So one classroom starts, you go through one classroom, and that classroom stands up and joins the back of the train. And you continue around, and then you deliver the classes back as you go back through it, to finish off. So everybody gets to see everybody's costumes and all of the other students as we go through. And we usually have lots of parents there to help out and participate and take pictures and all that good stuff. So, our 3rd grade Ohio State testing for the English Language Arts. The fall test will be the first week in November. So teachers are preparing for the things that they need to do in preparation for giving that test. We'll be doing that in a couple of days in the morning before school, and so that will be happening, like I said, beginning of November. Our 4th grade group will be doing an evening Veterans Day program, and that will be taking place on Monday, November 14th at 6 p.m. And they will have their Grandparents' Day actually prior to that program on Friday, November 11th. And that's also such a great thing. We love having the grandparents come in. It's so crowded and so wonderful. And they love coming in. The kids get to share a cookie and drink after they do their little concert, and it's really a neat day. And then we have a book fair coming up, and it's coming up November 14th through the 21st. And it will coincide with parent-teacher conference nights. And we also do have a mother-son dance coming up on that Friday. So there'll be a couple of evening opportunities that parents can come and take a look at books and that type of thing as well. So, and that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you to the administrators for coming tonight and presenting. Appreciate that. We'll move on to the consent agenda section. Start off with workshops and conferences. Mr. Belleville.
Hey, we have 3 workshops listed there. For Seth Cooperrider, that is just a training, facilities management. And for Jared Kitchen, Julian Savage, and Matt Gregory, the OMEA conference that's held every year, and we've historically always sent our music department to that. And then the last one there, Edie Schilling, to the OAASFEP Fall Conference. That is basically dealing with federal grants and federal programs where we receive money. So would recommend we approve those workshops.
All right. Questions? Great. We'll move on to the financial items.
Okay, so 2 reports to go through this evening. I'm going to start off with our financial report. Just a reminder, this is for the month of September. So overall, for the month of September, we received revenues of just under $9 million compared to $8.4 million last year. So we're up 5% to last year. The big things to call out, no change in property tax or income tax for the month of September, since we do not receive those in that month. Our state foundation payments totaled $2.8 million versus $2.3 million last year. However, keep in mind that tuition payments are included in that this year versus they were separate payments in years past. And then some of our other revenue, we were you know what, I actually believe I have a typo in here. We're at $69,000 versus, let me confirm, I don't think 593 is correct. I will get back to you on that. I'm sorry, I think that's a typo. So overall revenue up 5% year to date. Our expenditures equaled $6.2 million versus just under 5.5 last year. You'll see the biggest shift is in salaries, which is section 3.01 at 3.2 million versus 2.5. The biggest thing here is that September this year was a 3-pay month versus it didn't happen until October last year. So it's just a shift in months. So once we get through October year to date, we'll be back in line. But when you just look at it as a snapshot in time, it looks like we're higher just because that 3rd pay happened in September. That would also be why our benefits are higher, because obviously they're directly related to salaries. If you look at our purchase services, we're at $283,000 versus just under $500,000 last year. We are forecasted at $345,000 or 12% lower than last year. The biggest shift here is last year our behavior response teams, and that those salaries were really coming from purchase services last year. However, they're in our salaries this year. So it's similar dollars, just a shift in what category that they are coming out of. And then supplies, $255,000 this year versus $305,000 last year, down 16%. To be honest, it's no major call-outs. It's just kind of a shift in what we've seen so far. A few things to say. We did purchase all of our copy paper for the entire year up front. Last year, we saw copy paper going up at increased over 20% throughout the year last year. So by buying it all up front, we were able to get a bulk discount and then also offset what we would think to continue to increase this year. So we were able to work with the maintenance team in each of the buildings to make sure that we had space that's temperature controlled and all of that for paper. But we did purchase that up front. So that's where some of that expense is coming in. But at the same time, we are still under our last year's supply costs. So doing really well in supplies so far. Overall, no changes since August in our transfers out. That's really where we transfer out income tax. So no changes since we do not do that in the month of September. So overall, our expenditures were in excess of revenues by $893,000 for the month of September. However, for the year, we're up $2.5 million to last year. That $893 that we were under is because we aren't receiving those big payments. So September is one of the months where we don't receive any of our tax revenue, but yet we still have our big expenses. So I always talk about how we receive those big revenues and then kind of live off of them for 3 months. September is one of the months that we're living off of our revenue. So that's where that shift is. So it's not a concern. It's just normal kind of pattern. Overall for the month, our ending cash balance is at 17.6, just under 17.6 million compared to 15.8 million last September. Our forecast for the year is a little over $17 million. So far we're a little higher than forecast. And like we had talked about before, that was coming in some of the increased taxes that we had seen. So any questions in the financial portion so far? Okay. I will move on to insurance. The good news is that not a lot to report on insurance. So that's always good because it's kind of quiet right now in insurance, so knock on wood. But overall for health insurance, we had revenue of just over $1 million versus, so $1,085,000 versus $1,070,000 last year. Our monthly premiums are flat to last year, but since we did have that additional pay, that's also additional revenue for the month, so that's where that shift is coming from. Our expenditures are at $904,000 versus just over $1 million last year. We have actually seen several months of claims that have been lower than last year. So just watching this, but so far we are trending down in claims. So, really happy to see that. And then also holding our premiums flat to last year helps. So when we hold premiums flat and then have fewer claims, or I should say less expensive claims, we're doing a really, really good job with our insurance. Our cash balance ended the month at $2.682 million compared to $1.7 million last year. So we're in a good spot with our health insurance. Same with dental insurance. Our revenue decreased about $6,348 or 11%. However, keep in mind that we did decrease our premiums to $89 versus $94 last year. So total revenue for the year is at $53,000 versus $59,000 last year. Our expenditures also decreased here by $20,000 or 30% so far for the total year. So far for the total year, we've spent $48,000 versus $68,000 last year. We had about $10,000 of expenditures just in the month of September. I do want to point out this is actually opposite of what most people are seeing right now. So most people in insurance and some other school districts are seeing increased expenditures. So we're watching it. There's nothing that can say it's going to go up or down. It just happens, happens to be. But we've seen 3 months in a row now of decreased expenditures. So doing really well. Our cash balance ended September at $231,000 compared to $225,000 last year. So hovering right where we would like to be within dental insurance. So overall, really happy with the insurance program. We will be going into open enrollment middle of November that will take effect beginning of January. So more to come with that out to all staff, but no major changes in insurance right now. So, any questions on insurance? Okay, those are the only 2 financial reports for this evening.
All right, if there's no questions, move on to approval of the consent agenda items. Any
So
motion to approve? Mr. Smeltzer's moved to approve.
Second.
Mr. Horn, second the motion.
Mr. Smeltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Horn?
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes, motion passed. Moving on to new business. 6.1 is the motion to approve a resignation for retirement of Denise Schoonover as Rushville Middle School teacher effective at the end of the 2022-23 school year.
Again, want to welcome Ms. Schoonover and her family this evening. Happy you could be with us. Kind of dreading this, to be honest. When Ms. Schoonover sent her letter over to me, I joked with her and said, I sent it back and told her I didn't want it. These are always tough. On a personal level, and I shared this with her, I couldn't be happier for her to be at a point where you get to spend more time with your family, and after they've sacrificed, all of our families sacrifice when you're in education, whether a board member, teacher, bus driver, doesn't make a difference. If you're involved in education, there's a sacrifice from your family for you to be here for your school family, and Ms. Schoonover's family and has sacrificed a lot for her to be such a valuable member of our Falcon family. And so on a personal level, I'm very happy for her that that she gets to have this time with her family. On a professional level, just makes me sick to my stomach. Fairfield Union will be a lesser place without her, without a doubt. She has touched the lives of literally thousands of kids. She has been a role model, an inspiration in many, many ways, at least in my 7 years, kind of a rock in the storm at times. Has just been a tremendous support for her colleagues, for people that work here that aren't in Rushville Middle School, just any staff member. She's always there to lend a hand and be a support to anyone who needs that. And so professionally, just absolutely hate to see her go. Some really, really big shoes to fill there. And but you know, as with all things, eventually Father Time wins, and she's to that point that she's ready to go spend some time with her family, and just very, very happy. We're blessed to have had you as long as we've had you. Can't thank you enough for all you've done for kids in our community, including mine, and we love you, and just glad that we've had this time, and looking forward to finishing out the year strong. And you know, you always have a home here, and we hope you come back to visit with us. But just want to say thank you for taking care of our kids.
Anything you'd like to share?
Yes, just, I guess it's exciting, but yet it's sad, because I've spent an awful lot of years here with a lot of here and with a lot of students that are parents here, so it is different. It's a whole different scheme to think about what I'm going to be doing. But I am excited to have, there again, I have to thank everybody that I ever worked with. I mean, the first year I was hired, Star Martin was just, if you know Star, she was just always right there. So she always helped you. All the staff, Steve Friesner, when I started at Rushville, in the old building in 5th grade, Steve was right there. He got me through that. The change, and he's from a Catholic school, so I went to a Catholic school and I taught in a Catholic school for 17 years. So it was a little different, but it was great. And the other teachers that we all worked with, Sue Fisher, Misty, Walton, she was great. She was great too. She was in 5th grade with me. So it's incredible to see how many of them have some of them have retired that I worked with too. And yes, so I just appreciated this chance of being able to work with all. If I had your students, I have students, so I appreciate working with them and all the support that I've gotten from them. So thank you very much. And I'll always be a faculty. Always
Indeed.
hold on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate all your years of service, so. All right. Entertain a motion to approve. Ms. Conrad Zingmeister moved to approve. I will second that.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister. Yes. Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Smelter.
Yes.
Scoot over if you come.
You will, don't worry. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You're more than welcome to hang out with us for the rest of the evening, but if you want to take off, we won't be offended. But thank you so much for being here. She's done great. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to 6.2. This is a supplemental resignation. Motion to approve the resignation of Amber Cup as 12th grade class advisor effective the end of the 22-23 school year.
Ms. Cup's been doing that a while, so I do want a little thank you to her. Well, a big thank you. She's been awful supportive of a lot of seniors and helping them prepare for graduation and making sure that caps are on correctly and gowns and tassel on the correct side and all that type of stuff. So we appreciate all she's done as the advisor, and as she lets it go at the end of this year, we'll, again, big shoes to fill.
Appreciate her giving this much notice in advance to help
All right.
find a replacement, so thank her for that. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Horn's moved to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smeltzer, second the motion?
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes, motion passed. 6.3, motion to approve personal service supplemental contracts as presented. It looks like we have 8 of them there.
And these are all repeats except for Mr. Bowles taking over winter homecoming dance, and it's exciting to see a new teacher get involved that quickly with some supplementals, and especially things like homecoming dance. That's not an easy supplemental, and God bless him, and say a few extra prayers for him, but we're happy to see him get involved. So I would recommend we approve those.
If there are no questions or comments, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Smeltzer's moved to approve.
Second.
Ms. Conrad Zangmeister, second the motion?
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Motion passed. 6.4, motion to approve substitute teacher list as presented. Had a chance to review that. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Ms. Conrad Zangmeister moved to approve. I'll second that.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Motion passed. 6.5 is motion to approve a substitute classified list as presented. If there are no questions, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister moved to approve.
Second.
Mr. Horn, second the motion.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Motion passed. 6.6, this is a motion to approve repayment plan as presented for Kathy Poston.
So happy to answer any questions anybody has on these next two, but the plan is pretty straightforward with how they'll repay the district.
Any questions? If none, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister moved to approve.
Second.
Mr. Smeltzer seconded.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Motion passed. And 6.7 is motion to approve a repayment plan as presented for Aaron Ramsey. Any questions? Not need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Smeltzer moved to approve. I will second.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Motion passed. And that brings us to executive session. We will need a
No
motion.
action.
I'm
No
sorry?
action coming out.
No action coming out? Okay. This is a motion to let me start that all over. Motion adjourned to executive session in accordance with section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
So moved.
Mr. Smeltzer moved to move into executive session.
Second.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister second the motion.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Horn.
Yes.
Call to start at 8:09.